things that I learned very early in my life was about rivalries. And playing sports was really something that brought these rivalries out in my life, or really kind of helped me to understand what it meant to have a rival. And I learned pretty quickly, I played sports my whole life. I learned pretty quickly that you can't like Ohio State and Michigan. I learned pretty quickly that you can't like Alabama and Auburn. Or if you live in this town, Ravens and Steelers. I know it's a couple of Steelers fans in here. I won't look at you. Maybe you're not a football fan. Maybe it's basketball. Like maybe you like college basketball. You can't like Duke and North Carolina. Like that those two just don't mix. Or maybe you're an NBA fan, and some of y'all may be a little old school. The rivalry between like the Lakers and the Celtics. You can't like both. And maybe you're not like into any sports. Maybe it's TV or film. Like you can't be down with Batman and Joker. Like they're rivals. Or maybe you grew up like I did with a grandmother who watched The Young and the Restless. And she still does. And you understand that there was a big rivalry between Victor Newman and Jack Abbott. I got a couple of y'all in here that know. The rest of y'all might be a little bit over your head. Nevertheless, this whole thing about rivalries is something that we understand. And it's pretty clear. You have to be on one side or the other. There's no back and forth. Like our allegiance is either for or against. And the reason is because our hearts, our love is aligned with one particular side. And so this weekend, as we kick off this series, this 3-part series about generosity, what's interesting is when you study the scriptures, particularly the Gospels, and you see Jesus's language, he uses the same language about money as I just used talking about rivalries. He knows that there is a constant tug of war for our hearts and our allegiance towards money. Along with this belief that we say to ourselves, both consciously and subconsciously, over and over again, I just need a little bit more money. I just need a little bit of a raise. I just need a little bit more for whatever reason. I need another promotion. I need a bigger house. I need a little bit more of my savings. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. I hope you do get a promotion. I hope you do get a better job. I do hope your living situation does increase and gets better. I hope that you are able to save more and invest more. I hope all of those things happen because none of those things are wrong. But what's tricky for us is when we begin to focus our hearts and our attention on those things. And we focus our hearts and our attention, we then begin to frame our entire existence around promotion, our entire existence around possession, our entire existence around accumulating more things and also more money. And you know what this does? This puts us in a constant state of hustle. And you know what hustle says? Hustle says, I have to make this thing happen because I'm trying to do this, this, and this. Where Jesus says our prosperity is really focused on a state of humility, not hustle. And a humility that is completely submitted to God and thinks about others more than ourselves. In just a moment, we're going to zoom in on Jesus' first public discourse. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. And in the Sermon on the Mount, is Jesus actually doing an entire reframing. He's trying to help the audience that he's speaking to understand what it means to live a generous life, to live a good life. And the audience here is a people that are living in suffering. They are on the struggle bus because they are under the oppression or the rule of Rome. And so they know what it's like to suffer. They know what it's like to struggle. So when Jesus is giving this first public discourse, he's not talking to an audience of people that are prominent or successful or wealthy. These are people that don't have much, some of whom are barely making it, some are experiencing persecution. They're living under stress, worry, and concern. And I think there's some people in this room who know what that feels like. You know what stress feels like. You know what worry feels like. You know what concern feels like. So this message that Jesus is giving is not just for this audience that he's speaking to, but it's also for us because we know what this is like as well. Most of us understand what it feels like to be in this tension. And we love the idea of being more generous. We're not against that. We're not opposed to that. We want to be more generous, but we're more focused on getting ourselves together first. Isn't this what we say? I'll be more generous when I get this, or when I can make this happen, or when I can get these ducks in a row. Can I just tell you something real quick? The reality is, if you're not generous now, you won't be generous then. They used to say back in the day, like, hey, if you're a fool without money, you'll be a fool with money. Because it's about our mindset. And essentially what Jesus is trying to do in the Sermon on the Mount is he's trying to change our mindset about how we live, and money is a big part of that. And so I hope that over the next 3 weeks, which we won't talk specifically about money every single week because there's other aspects of generosity, but money is a big one. But I hope over the next 3 weeks that we will have a shift in our mindset and how we think about money and how we think about what it means to live generously. For today, I want to zoom our attention on Matthew 6, starting in verse number 19, and we'll just read just a few verses. Here we go. Jesus says, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? No one can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." I want to borrow a little phrase from a writer, theologian, pastor in Queens, New York by the name of Rich Velotis for our subject for this opening message. Money is a rival God. Money is a rival God. Now, a couple of disclaimers for this message that I want to highlight for us before we unpack what Jesus has said in Matthew 6. Number one, money is a significant tool. It's useful. and to have it, and for maybe one or two of you to have a lot of it, wink, wink, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Again, I want to say that one more time. Money is a significant and a useful tool, and even if you have a lot of it, that it's not bad. The second disclaimer is this, though. Money turns into a rival God when it captures our hearts. That's called an idol. An idol is anything that we put in place of God, anything that we give more attention to God, anything that we've oriented our lives around other than God. Money tends to be that for a lot of us, and this is what makes it a rival God. In Matthew 6, Jesus is giving all of us a clear warning. That's for you, for me, your neighbor, all of us. He's giving a clear warning because he knows his audience, you and I, easily get caught up into pursuing money. Why? In part because we desire a better life. And money has promised us that. And we've seen how it has changed people's lives. We're also looking for more provision in our lives. Or some of us, we just want to get off the struggle bus. I got one come on right there. I know it's more. But listen, there's no way for us to live generously if the focus is constantly on us. It's constantly on improving my situation. It's constantly focused on how am I going to get ahead? How am I going to make this happen? So many of us walk around wondering what our purpose in life is. And that's really a whole separate message and probably a whole separate sermon series. But part of our purpose for those of us who have decided to follow Jesus is to generate. Like that word literally means to produce new. So part of our role and our purpose for those of us who follow Jesus is to produce or generate renewal in the world, redemption in the world, to make things new and better. And so this whole idea of being generous and living a generous life is about producing renewal in the world. As a matter of fact, and some of you guys know that I love words and I study English in college. And so when you look at the prefix and the suffix gen, it literally means new or to make new or that which produces. This is our purpose as followers of Jesus. And Jesus is saying to us, living a life that is productive and that generates new is found only in him. This, again, is what John 15 is all about. Jesus saying, abiding in me, and you will be able to produce. As a matter of fact, I have called you and I have appointed you to produce, to generate, to be generous. So 3 things Jesus is highlighting in this discourse about money. And again, this has to do with a mindset shift. Starting in verse 19 through 21, he says, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This is about our pursuit in life, or the things that we pursue in life. Anything that we pursue more than God is a rival. It is an idol. And Jesus is literally saying here, you can pursue money, which won't fulfill you, it can't save you, you can lose it, and oh, by the way, tell your neighbor you can't take it with you. You can't. So don't store up or don't have so much focus in pursuing things that cannot fulfill you. And whatever you treasure or have a desire for is what your heart will pursue. That word treasure in the Greek is actually an interesting word. It has a few different definitions, and one of them is actually a coffer or a coffin. Think about that. Like a vault. And when I thought about this, I thought about how I saw not too long ago, and some of you may have seen this, how in Mexico these drug lords like literally have these coffins or these coffers that are so full of riches and gold and all of these different things. And the idea is for you to have the most fabulous one to show off all of your wealth. But you're not here. You're dead. I saw one that was bulletproof. What's the point? What is the purpose? Now, we're laughing because we know that seems ridiculous. That's exactly what Jesus is saying. The pursuit of these things, of money in this way, is ridiculous. Pursuing materialism is a waste. It's not life-giving and it's high maintenance. Because anything that you generate, you got to sustain. You got to manage it. And by the way, I know we say we just need a little bit more, but guess what? It's never enough. It's never enough. We always need just a little bit more. And we can't live generously because we're distracted by the pursuit of money and what we think it will do for us. And then we're weighed down by the maintenance of all the stuff that we have accumulated, half of which that we don't use or is a waste. So number one, Jesus is talking about pursuit here. The second thing he shines a light on here, which seems like a little bit of a deviation, he's talking about in verse 22, the eye. Listen to what he says. He says, the eye is the lamp of the body. Now, I thought we were talking about money. Now he's talking about the eye. What is he saying? The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? Jesus is talking to us here about money, but specifically about our priorities. So first he's talking to us about our pursuit. Now he's talking to us about our priorities or our vision, what we have vision for. And this seems to be out of place, this language, talking about treasure and then your eyes. But the reference here is about giving our focus to priorities of God first. If we prioritize the things of God, then we will be healthy. Our mind will be healthy. Our spirit will be healthy. Our soul will be healthy. Versus prioritizing the world around us, that is going to produce unhealth in us and darkness. So prioritizing money causes our vision to be compromised. We've seen what happens. We've seen the decisions that we make. Some of us, if we pass the mic around, have stories and testimonies of what happened when we pursued money or we made a decision just because of money and it didn't turn out well. It actually produced negative things in our lives. So to prioritize money is to prioritize unhealth. So the correlation here is about what we are prioritizing and what we have vision for. Think about how much our priorities are slanted because of money. Look at the mental and physical toll prioritizing money has had on us. Jesus is calling us to have a Psalm 24 vision. You know what Psalm 24 says? The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And just so that we're clear, verse 2 goes on to say, he founded it and he established it. So you know what that means for us? It ain't yours. The money you have, these nice clothes you're wearing, the place you stay, all of it, it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. So then what that means is the things that we have been given, we are stewards over those things. To be a steward means that you have been given something that doesn't belong to you and you are to manage it well. So the things that are given to us, and particularly we're talking about money, it is to be stewarded well. And how we use it should bring honor to God because it came from him. When we put our priority on the things of God, then the decisions that we're making about our money and how we use our money should glorify God. And it shouldn't be about ourselves and putting more attention on ourselves and making ourselves feel better or comparing ourselves to others. So number one, Jesus is talking about the pursuit of money. Number two, he's talking about how money shifts our priorities or our vision. And then thirdly, here's what he says in verse 24. No one can serve two masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is about our passion. Where our passion lies, where our love really is. Jesus is pretty clear here that you can only have one allegiance. Like I was talking about earlier, this whole idea about rivalry. Like you can really only be on one side or the other. You can't love both. And the word there that we see in this passage about being devoted, it is a word related to love, and it's this idea of our source of contentment. So Jesus is talking about you can only have one source of contentment. You can't have multiple. You can't say you're content with your relationship with God and you're prioritizing money. You're going to love one and hate the other. Like your loyalties are going to be divided, and eventually you're going to have to give yourself over to one. You can't manage both. And as a matter of fact, I'm just thinking about this. You can't manage both if you really study the words of Jesus and the things that he calls us to. Like you can't have pride and be humble at the same time. Like, you can't be hateful and loving at the same time. Like, literally following Jesus calls all of these things in our lives into tension. Things like loving your enemies and loving your neighbor as yourself. Like, you can't say that, no, I just don't get down with that person, so I just can't fool with them and treat them a particular way. No. That you can't make exceptions. That's not how it works. As it relates to money, the danger here that Jesus is talking about is tying our contentment to affluence. Tying our, like, whether we're up or we're down or however we're feeling based upon our bank account. based upon like how much money we have or how much status we have or any of those sorts of things. That's the danger here. So it literally means that we cannot be happy if we're focused on money. We cannot be happy unless our money is right. I don't know about you. I haven't been living that long, but just a little bit. Money is always funny. It's always funny. It's always like this. I mean, just when you get, some saving, just when you get going in the right way, stuff just come out the blue. Hello, I'm here. Leak in the basement. Car broke down. Cousin calling for money again. Maybe that's just my cousin. Maybe not yours. It's always funny. And so what Jesus is saying is, you can't have a contentment, or you can't have contentment in your life if it's focused on money. Because it can come and it can go. If money is the source of our passion, it controls what we pursue, how we pursue, and our priorities. And our lives are oriented around just possessing more of it. And that is really the trick of the enemy, to just tell us like, hey, if you just pursue this job, like, it's going to be so much better for you. Is that what the Lord is asking you to do? Is that what he's calling you to do? Or is he asking you to trust him? See, right now I'm talking to myself. I'm not even talking to you. Like, is that what the Lord is asking me to do? Like, is he asking me to go over here? Is he asking me to make this decision? Or is he asking me to trust him? And you know what I'm saying? Lord, I want to trust you, but I'm struggling right now. Lord, I actually want to believe, and I know that you have provided for me, but I don't see it right now. That's okay too. Because the Lord already knows that you don't see it and that you're struggling with. He knows that. He desires our honesty and our authenticity because he knows our hearts. This is also why, like, the research shows us how many rich people are unhappy. How many rich people, or people who have affluence and influence, are struggling. And you know what? Even Jesus said, yo, it's going to be hard for rich people to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Not because he doesn't want us to have money. He don't want to have money. He doesn't want the money to have us. And the reason why, when Jesus is talking about rich people entering into the kingdom of heaven, he's talking about a life of contentment. He's talking about a life of fulfillment. And he's saying it's hard for rich people to enter into that life of contentment and that life of fulfillment because their life is built on their money. And it prevents us from experiencing the fullness of God. Let me see if I can land the plane for us like this. Again, back to Rich Velotis. He says, as it relates to money, that most of us are in three categories. I'm not going to raise your hand because some of us, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand because some of us are in all three categories at the same time. But he says we're either anxious, we're either ashamed, or we either feel stress. We're anxious because we have more month than money. For some of y'all, that's a little slow. That means that by the time before you get to the end of the month, your money has run out. That's you looking at what's due and you looking at what you have, and it's like, I need the next month to hurry up and come, so that I can stop feeling this way at least temporarily. And you're saying to yourself, if you're anxious, how can I be more generous when I don't have much, if any, to give? Or some of us feel shame because we made bad decisions and we're not where we hope we would be at this stage in our life. And we're saying, if we feel ashamed, how can I be generous with the position that I put myself in? So we're beating ourselves up for some decisions that we made. Or maybe, and all of us to some degree either are in this category or regularly feel this, we just stressed. Because there's so much to do, so much I want to do, and I need more money to do it. And how can I be generous when I don't know how to address all of these things that I have going on? No matter what category we're in, and I think I'm probably one of those that's in all three, there are two things that you can do. Number one, there's a theologian by the name of Mark Turnage, and he says, the summary of all of Jesus' teachings comes down to one word: relax. And if you think about it, this is essentially what Jesus is saying in so many instances. Oh my God, like the storm is raging. Jesus, we're about to die. Relax. Oh my God, like we got to feed all these people. We don't have any food. Relax. Oh my God, like Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Relax. Relax. This is the constant message that Jesus is bringing. But here's the thing. The relaxation can't happen outside of a relationship with him. So you can't just relax on your own. It don't work like that. It's, Lord, I'm struggling right now. If you don't help me, I don't know what's going to happen. Please, Holy Spirit, help me. That's who you call. Not your mama, not your friend, that's who you call. That's what helps you to relax. That's the first thing. The second thing that we can do is we can respond. We can respond. Taking a step. And as it relates to money, as it relates to generosity, as it relates to giving, the step is this. I want you to pay attention to this. Here's the step. Give what you have faith to give consistently. I'm going to say it again. Give what you have faith to give consistently. That's the response. And when Jesus was asked about paying taxes, you know what he said? He said, whose face is on the coin? They said, Caesar. Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God. You know who belongs to God? You. Give yourself to God. Give what you have faith to give, unapologetically, cheerfully, consistently. And I want to say this as we close. I'm going to ask Melissa to come and just lead us in a time of worship. This message and this series is not about God wanting your money. It's not about Hopeville asking you for your money. God wants our hearts. And he wants us to be the kind of people that represent his kingdom. A kingdom fueled by unconditional love. And you can only give unconditional love when you're not worried about what's going to happen over here, or what is this thing going to trigger if I do this. He wants us to be generous people because it all belongs to God. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to him. And the last thing I'll say is this. I'm reminded of, and I'm blanking on where it specifically says this in the scriptures, but stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. You know what that means? That means we can't see the salvation of the Lord. See, we always asking for the salvation. Lord, open the door. Lord, make this happen. Lord, give me this. That we're asking for the salvation of the Lord without standing still. We got to do the standing still part. And when you look up the word still, or you research it in the Hebrew, you know what it means? It means stop striving. Stop striving and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Some of us have not seen the salvation of the Lord in our lives because we won't stand still. Everyone standing. I'm going to ask our prayer team, members of our prayer team, to come down and be available for anyone who needs prayer. And if there's anyone here and this message for you just triggered, like, I just feel like I'm struggling right now, or I just need help, or I don't know what to do, I want our prayer team to just pray that the Holy Spirit will help you to relax, and that He will make it clear to you how you should respond so that you can stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Lord, I thank you so much for who you are. I thank you for being such a generous God that you would pursue us throughout creation because you love us unconditionally. That within itself is generosity, because you didn't blow the whole thing up and start over, but you continue to pursue us. Give us so many chances because you love us. And then you sent Jesus as the ultimate gift, as the ultimate sacrifice. Because John 3:16 says that you so loved the world that you gave. So your natural inclination is to give. Your natural inclination is to bless. And so as your children, let that be our natural inclination to give and to bless and be generous as we reflect what it means to be a follower of Jesus. Help us. In Jesus' name, amen.